What if I told you that your brain actually holds the key to any kind of breakthrough that you're trying to get through, any ceiling you keep hitting in business, in life, whatever it is? Today in this episode, I'm talking with Dr. Alok Trivedi. He goes by Dr. Rewire, and you'll see because everything he does is definitely not conventional. And, he's done the conventional work as a doctor, as a practitioner, hands-on. He's worked with so many folks, and we'll get into his background, but also we'll get into his approach. It's not conventional. He basically flips everything on its head and how he approaches people and how to shift your way of thinking in the way of your reality, essentially in literally minutes. He actually walks through how to do it on this episode so you can start tapping into your unlocked potential. It's kind of exciting, right? I think you're gonna dig it. I love this episode. So go jump in and follow Dr. Rewire after this episode. He's gonna give you a lot of cool tips. Let's go. Marketers have never been so spread thin. Like with all this stuff happening, technology is going crazy. It's really tough to really focus and get creative and create great content or connect with the customers like we used to, or even prospects. So, you're trying to launch a bunch of content campaigns, you're generating leads, you're trying to score the leads, you're nurturing them, so much more, but you really don't have enough time to even breathe, let alone do the best marketing out there. But HubSpot's trying to fix that for you. They have a new AI. It's built into the system called Breeze. So it combines their marketing hub and the content hub with all these different cool features that help you automate and, remix your content into a whole bunch of different types, score your leads in a better way, and actually have a nice look at the analytics and everything that's going on in your business. So I would recommend to stop spreading yourself out so thin and start making some big moves with HubSpot. You can try it out for yourself. Go visit HubSpot.com/marketers to learn more. Hey, before you get into the episode, I urge you to hit pause and go check out the AI Digital Mind. It's like a digital twin of this podcast and a whole bunch of other content I've released. Go to hustleandflowchart.com/AI Joe. It's hustleandflowchart.com/AI Joe. You can literally chat with this podcast with me and my guests in text, audio, and video for free. If you want one of these made for yourself, if you're interested, go to hustleandflowchart.com/interest, and we make these things out. So enjoy. Let's get to the episode. Dr. Alok Trivedi, it's great to have you here, man. And the work that you've done just from my research is incredible. And I think it's flipping the whole concept of just how we're, Dr. Rewire, you named that for a reason. So I want to learn about, where you came from, which I know is in more the clinical setting, right? Like it's helping what you're serving, 1,200, I think, patients. It was a week per week.
Yeah, it was. Yes, per week.
Wow. But there was a flip there. So I'm very curious of what was this epiphany that happened, and walk me through, because you're all about human behavior and optimizing that. So I guess set the scene, and then I would love to hear what that epiphany moment was.
Yeah, I think for me, so I've always asked the question. The one question I've always asked is, what controls that in the human body? And that's probably a perfect place to really start the conversation. I studied personal training and exercise, and then I went on into personal development. Excuse me, not personal development, into physical therapy. And I struggled in physical therapy, ended up going to chiropractic school. Long story short, I figured that the muscles were controlled by the nerves, and nerves were controlled by the brain, and then what controlled the brain. So I just kept on going down this path of continued exploration. And I was fortunate enough to build one of the largest practices in the country, if not the world at the time. And in it, but I just kept on finding what's the root cause of someone's problem. Right? And I remember this case I had one time. Gentleman comes in on the 3rd of every month. Why every month? He comes in and says, you know what, I got this back pain. I said, why are you coming in on the 3rd of every month? He's like, I don't know. I said, when did it start? He said, it started last night. What were you doing? I was talking with the wife. And I said, what were you talking about? How we're going to make the mortgage payment. And I said, that's interesting. And I said, you know what, today I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to do anything with you. All I want to do today is I just want to ask you some questions, see if I can rebalance the brain.
Sure.
And I did. 80% of his pain was gone in 10 minutes of asking questions. And then I went on to say, he came back the next day, and I asked him some more questions, cleared it, it was gone. Then I didn't see him for 6 months. And I said, what happened? He goes, I don't know, doc. He goes, I haven't had any pain and money started to show up and income started to show up. And all of a sudden in my clinic, I started seeing more patients. I started getting people saying, do the brain thing that you do, doc. I want to do that. I don't want to do the symptom thing.
Right.
And long story short, so I continued doing that. Started working with athletes, CEOs, celebrities, and all that space. And then I went through my own divorce. And in my divorce, long story short, I was stuck with no money. I was doing intermittent fasting before it was a thing. I had no money. Like literally I had a lemon to eat. And I ended up basically figuring out the process to rewire. Long story short, I rewired and I figured out that I'd created a belief in my brain that you could have love or money, but not both.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
And I went 9 months without making any money or any revenue in my life. That night I figured it out, I rewired it, and then 3 days later, I made $175,000. 2 days later after that, I rewired some more, I made $100,000. 2 days later, I made $80,000. These are all in sales and deals. And I said, there's something to this thing that's even deeper and richer. And so I spent the better part of the next year, 2 years of my life, and still to this day, to be honest with you, continuing to rewire my brain. And at the same time, not only have I made more money, empowered my own life, freed myself from all these voices in my head, and made myself lose weight, stop drinking or minimize drinking, stop smoking, lost 50 pounds in the process, and took charge and empowered of my life. Yeah, I believe you can have success and fulfillment, and there's a path to do it. That create that science to be able to get there.
Wow. So that's a shift. I mean, that is not the common approach for any kind of clinical healthcare, chiropractic, whatever you have, what have you. I mean, I know I've experienced back pain and, gone to chiropractors and that whole thing, upper back pain. Everybody has their own part, I feel like,
Sure, yeah.
something's held. And it wasn't working. Like it'd work a little bit, feel great, but it was like, why the hell is it still achy?
That's right.
And I think I came to my own conclusions. Again, it was very emotionally tied somehow to a meaning, a belief
Sure.
said, and that's exactly what you found, it sounds like, and then replicated that beyond just yourself or someone else,
Yeah, I wanted to create a system, right, Joe? I wanted to create a system that someone could literally, and I didn't do it for anybody else. I did it for my own kids,
Sure.
right? I'd love to sit on this altruist human being that I want to better the world. I do want to better the world. But you know what? I'm a dad first.
Cool.
And I wanted to give my kids the blueprint of life. Not to go off of like Brian Johnson and his blueprint. Like, what's the blueprint of the mind?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the blueprint of the mind? And I said, if I can teach my kids how to think, I've done my job as a dad. And in that process, I've had a chance of not only just create for my kids, but work with celebrities who help, who win more Emmys.
Yeah.
With Damon John, golfers, and all these cool people and cool stories that they come to me. They say, I'm stuck. I can't get ahead.
Wow.
Help me unblock this. And things just open up. So that's kind of what I've been able to do.
It's incredible, man. And that shift, thanks for sharing that moment. Cause I always feel like there's that moment where it's just that aha moment. And it was cool that it was with someone else. It wasn't just yourself, but you saw for externally this massive change happen.
Yeah.
And then you were able to replicate it. I believe it was an Olympian, if I'm not mistaken. You did this rewire in less than like 4 minutes or something. And I don't know if that story, I'm curious if you could share a story like this, or maybe with that person or someone else that just shows how fast you can flip something, maybe a deep held belief.
There's so many. I mean, it literally can take me a minute to 2 minutes to 3 minutes to be able to rewire someone. The fastest I've ever done is I've taken a lady who had depression. 7 seconds later, she no longer had depression.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
7 seconds later, because it's about rebalancing the brain, right? So when you help get the brain to where it's supposed to be, we're able to function. The body is a beautiful mechanism. We just don't use it the way that it's designed to be used, right? And so I'm thinking of my friend now he's got 4 Emmy Awards. Had 2, was stuck, couldn't get any more. I rewired him in 10 minutes and unlocked the thing that was holding him back, and then went on to win 2 more Emmys. And I think he's in the running for another one this year as well. So there's a path to be able to create this. And as entrepreneurs, and in this audience especially, most people think the problem is your failures, right?
Yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem is the successes. You don't hit the lower limit. As Gay Hendricks used to say, there's an upper limit.
Yep.
And that upper limit is based on the brain. It's based on dopamine. It's based on your neurology. And then when we find it, we can actually govern that whole thing and control the whole mechanism.
Wow.
And it's a science. They've created an actual science you can do. That's not arbitrary anymore.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, Gay Hendricks, the upper limit problem. Yeah, remember
Hmm.
that from Big Leap.
Yeah,
And
that's right. Big Leap. That's right.
yeah, when you start to think of it and frame it in that way, you're like, holy shit, yeah, I'm actually you get confined to whatever that upper limit that we set for ourselves, if it's conscious or not, it's subconscious.
It is, right? And if we're just talking about Gay Hendricks, like he talks about the upper limit and
Yeah.
then you fall. And then people call that limit, okay, let's just say it's 10 million in business, right? Let's just say you get to 10 million, that was my upper limit, and then you fall back to 3 million, let's say, for example, right? And then you're like, well, what happened? That $7 million gap is the gap that now will cause you more anguish, pain, guilt, shame, resentment, frustration within yourself that and it's costing you literally $7 million a year not to fix the brain.
Man. Okay.
It's costing you that.
Yeah.
But we think it's self-sabotage. It's not self-sabotage. It's understanding the upper limit because water seeks its own level. Your brain finds its own level that it matches. Your identity, your frequency, your nerves, all these things come together and say, this is the ideal level. So you'll sit at 3 million. And that's what you do. And then you get pissed off. You say, why can't I get to 10? Why can't I get to 10? And then we go through these cycles. We do it for 3 years and we get frustrated. Then we get stop setting goals. And by the 7th year, we get the 7-year itch and we want to get the hell out of the business.
You bring up goals because that was actually one of the things I have on my list, little topics here, and I want to get your thoughts on goals. So
Yeah.
like you have things like SMART goals, that everyone's heard of that. A lot of I read some stat that 97% of the Fortune 500 companies use SMART goals, or at least somehow claim that that's the thing. But I think you've said is traditional goal setting is just it's flawed. It's not correct. So I'd love to hear your stance on that and how that also relates to like dopamine, the actual chemicals inside of us, and how that can just totally throw everything off.
Okay, so for the record, if anyone listens to this podcast, you took me down the neurology path here. So I'm going to geek out now if that's all
Do
right.
it, please.
It's on you.
I'll take it.
So what happens is when we set a goal, we set up dopamine pathways. And we say, let's just use 10 million as a round number for this audience, right? Or even a million if you think, whatever you think is the right number. Let's use 10. So you say, okay, I'm going to go hit a goal of 10 million in my business. I want to go after that. What do you got to do? What do you got to map? That 0 to 10, wherever you're at, let's say it's at 2 million, 5 million, 7 million, that delta creates a dopamine spike. Now what's going to happen is that if you don't hit 10 million on that goal and you hit 9 million, you now have anger and frustration because now you're going to fall back down because if this dopamine goes up, the other side of dopamine is something called norepinephrine and epinephrine. And these are what's known as catecholamines, which are stress neurotransmitters. Okay? These are sympathetic to the body. They release cortisol, adrenal glands, burnout, fatigue in the body, exhaustion, high blood pressure, insulin resistance, pre-diabetes. All this stuff comes from this. So when I say goal setting is flawed and antiquated, it is because we're not managing our emotions around the goal. So dopamine goes up and spikes, and then what happens is if we don't hit that goal, we crash. Bigger problem becomes if you do hit the goal.
The bigger problem.
The bigger problem comes if you do hit the goal.
Okay.
You hit that spike, and now all of a sudden you now become addicted to that spike.
Because you achieve that thing. You're like,
Because you
okay,
did
well,
it.
I can do anything then.
I
Huh?
can do it again.
Yeah.
I can do it again. And so what we do is we set then bigger goals. And then we set bigger goals. I know the world says, you know what, set goals so big that they'll scare you.
Right.
That is complete nonsense. That is nothing but nonsense. If you set a goal that scares you, you now have to go through agony and pain to try and get there. The brain doesn't work towards agony and pain. The brain moves into pleasure. And what we've done in personal development and I've studied with the best. I've had 130 mentors over my career. And what we've said is that, the fear, you just got to cross on the other side of the fear. No, you don't. You're never going to live without fear. What you have to do is manage the fear that you have. So our brain is designed to sit and say, you know what? I can set these goals, but I can actually set them on 10% trajectories.
Okay. Manageable.
Manageable. So I use an example. How do you triple your business? Now, this is not mine. This is a Jay Abraham thing, right? Jay Abraham, you increase 10% in one category in your new clients, 10% in your retention, and 10% in another category. Those are manageable tactics in business that your brain can sit and say, I can manage that. Rather than the large number, and according to J. Abraham, right, like you can now triple your business because of that.
Sure. Leverage, and it has compounding effects throughout. Yeah.
Completely correct. And now what we've done is we've managed the emotions. Dopamine stays regulated, and you don't create blood sugar imbalance. Because if dopamine goes up, so does blood sugar. If dopamine crashes, so does your blood sugar. It follows the same trend, right?
And
It's
what's the health effects of that blood sugar? Just really quick, like what do we-
Yes. The more spikes we create in our blood sugar, the more insulin resistance we create over time. And insulin resistance leads to diabetes. So that leads to high blood pressure, problem sleeping, brain fog, can't get clarity. You wake up in the morning, I can't think. Like a lot of, and maybe your group doesn't, but a lot of entrepreneurs like, man, I just need a drink to chill out. I need a tequila to call it a night. Like we do all these things as suppressors to our body, rather than understanding as an entrepreneur, we have to learn to manage. We have to learn to manage our system. And so that being the case, we then create all this illness on the back end. Your adrenal fatigue kicks in, cortisol spikes, and cortisol is the hormone that in essence is the stress hormone.
Right.
It's stress. And so if we have stress, our body doesn't work.
It's like fight or flight, right? Like, but
Complete fight or flight.
always on. Yeah.
Always on. And chronic stress leads to chronic inflammation.
Which is the source of all disease.
All
essentially.
disease comes from chronic inflammation.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And I'll say it to be politically correct in case anyone wants to, social media me. It's 99% of it all comes from that. Okay? For the record of that, right? But if we then look at it, then as entrepreneurs, and this is my goal to help entrepreneurs wake up to this is saying, hey, look, I got it. You have to have health. You have to have these 5 pillars of health that I talk about. You have to have an unshakable mind. You have to have an unshakable body. You have to have an unshakable diet. And then you have to have unshakable sleep. And you have to have unshakable wealth. But most of us are chasing this wealth game, losing our mind, losing our body, not knowing what to eat to regulate it for ourselves, and we don't get the sleep that we need to recover.
So then how are you going to get any kind of wealth? How are you define that wealth? It could be the money, or it could just be fulfillment, wholeness. Break down the 5 pillars even more, because I want to place, I don't know, maybe we could think of like when you're working with someone initially, someone that is wide open on the cortisol, they're chasing these goals. They've already had some pretty good achievements, but they're just, they're in a slump and they're coming to you.
Yeah.
Like how do you approach them?
Well, first thing I do is I do a brain DNA test, right? I've created the brain DNA test where we look at your actual DNA and we do a cheek swab, send in the cheek swab, and then from that cheek swab, we're able to see 7 SNPs that control the 5 neurotransmitters: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and we're able to see how your body responds to these. So for example, someone who's got a high or a low COMT gene variable is going to have a lot of dopamine in their system and a lot of serotonin in their brain. Joe is going to be ping, 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 ping. They have like 40 tabs open on their computer and they can process it all. But then when it comes time to go to bed at night, they can't recover.
Yeah.
Right? Problem is that person's also waking up in the morning having a cup of Java Joe and saying, you know what, I need this to wake up. No, that's a mistake for that person. Then what we've got to do is we've got to actually figure out, because everybody has a code. I like to say, you have to know your code.
Yeah.
Once you get your code, then you have to create a system that works for you to get that. Then we have to rewire that so that everything you're doing is matching your code. Then it makes sense. Another example, like someone like that, like there's this big thing in the market, right? It's for entrepreneurs. Don't totally contradict with this crap that's out there. Everyone, in order to get healthy, everyone needs to cold plunge every day.
Right. The trend.
That's just crap advice. That's crap.
Why would you say that's crap?
Because what happens is that when you're cold plunging every day, and let's say your body makes too much dopamine, you have too much dopamine in the system as it is, you go in there, you spike your norepinephrine and dopamine levels, that now stays in your system, that now creates cortisol response and stress response.
True. Okay. Yeah, the opposite of probably what you're
The opposite of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So we have these blanket statements in health and biohacking that are just as dangerous as the abuse of medicine.
Hmm.
That's just not accurate.
How about the opposite? Because you have things like sauna, and like what would you say on that? Kind of the total opposite side of that spectrum.
I think it's valuable, right? But I think you've got to find out your code to make sure that you can do it. Because absolutely, do I have a sauna? I have a cold plunge? Absolutely, I do. Right? I'm not saying it's not beneficial. I'll give you an example. I'm the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
So I had a cold plunge, and I'm just like everyone else. I'm like, okay, I got to be disciplined, be all you can be. The whole like breakthrough walls entrepreneurial crap that we say to ourselves.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I went and did my own gene test, and it said in my gene test, it said, you know what? I don't process the cold that well.
Wow.
I live
That's
between
going to cause
Chicago.
more stressors, right?
That causes me stress. So now that causes me stress. So I go into that cold plunge at 45 degrees, 6 minutes a day, because that's what they've said on social media is healthy for me. Now all of a sudden I go into this thing and I'm causing more stress on my body. Cortisol is going up. Stress response is going up. Insulin then goes up. Blood pressure goes up. It doesn't go down.
Right.
So instead I said, you know what? Okay, I got it. This is a moderation game for me. So I go in, I turned it up to 52, 53 degrees. And then I go in for 3 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week.
I like that. Okay, moderation. Look at
It's a
that.
moderation game.
No one's talking. I've never heard anybody say that. Like, how about we just go a little warmer, just a little bit?
This is
For
it.
shorter. Yeah. Ah.
Entrepreneurs have this, and our brains are designed to go for all or none.
That's right. Well, that's honestly, it's what the media is going to pick up anyway, right? So it's all
It is.
traffic.
And that's what we look at, and we say, okay, I got to go all in or none. And we listen to these people who are out there saying we go all or none, and that's all we have to do. And that's not really accurate because our health and body is breaking down. And as entrepreneurs, we have to look at it. If we're the leaders of society, then we have to ask ourselves a different question. How are we leading? We have to ask ourselves a different question. Are we being the part that you would want your child to be? Burned out, exhausted, truth. And you know what? Not the crap that you put on your social media. The true answer is that you look inside of your head. Are you pumping yourself with TRT to make sales and get yourself through the day? Because that's a symptom that you're looking at. Why not raise your testosterone by getting your brain awake, inspired, getting yourself aligned correctly, and getting your body in the right optimal state and function at a whole different level rather than just injecting ourselves all day long. And I see this all day long, and we're causing more illness than we are actually breeding health.
I want to pause for a moment and shout out another podcast on the HubSpot Podcast Network, your audio destination for business professionals. This one's called Og Mentors. It's hosted by Julie Mayer and Jimmy Edgerton. And these two, they're a pretty cool duo where one is, Jimmy is a lot more on the loose side. I would say that Julie brings it in and keeps us focused on mentoring and movement. And so these folks, they focus on mentoring and exploring ways on how to augment and refresh kind of like the way that mentoring is applied. And they have these principles that they weave into their episodes, and they give a bunch of practical tips and they lace it with a whole bunch of humor as well. It's always cool when there's a cool duo happening there. So if you're in the mentoring space, or if you have a leadership space, relationship guidance and things like that, that's what the podcast is made for. So you'll get a lot for it. It's great for entrepreneurs, marketers, sales professionals. They love the show as well. It's a great one. I've checked it out and I recommend it. So go listen to Og Mentors wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm going to do a quick shout out one more time for the thing I talked about at the top of the episode, which is the AI version of me and of this podcast and my YouTube videos and all these things. It all lives within this AI platform. I used Delphi.ai to create it, and I want you to use mine. It's totally free. Go to hustleandflowchart.com/AI That's hustleandflowchart.com/AI Test this thing out. It's crazy. You could type with it, talk with it. You can even use video. And you can look up anything from this podcast. You can ask a question about your business, life, any scenario. It kind of learns about you with the information you give it. It's rad. You will love it. And also, there's a lot of people who are asking, how do I get one of these? How do I build it out? The cool thing is my team and I have been building a ton of these every single day. I've used the platform, Delphi.ai, for 2 years.
I'm actually one of their advisors because I was one of their first users and just gave them a ton of feedback. I love it. But we build these things. So if you want to use it for lead generation, for, you have all this content as an expert, author, coach type person, we can put that into this digital brain and make it interactive. You could use it for customer service, internal training for your team, for your organization, lots of uses. If you would like one of these, I can pass over an exclusive deal. There's no one else that's offering this out there. I work closely with Delphi as one of their partners, agency partners, to build this out. So hit me up, type hustleandflowchart.com/interest into whatever browser. Again, that's hustleandflowchart.com/interest, and hit me up. Let's build this thing together. All right, back to the episode. So you mentioned TRT, testosterone, hormone replacement therapy. It is very trendy because I think it's word of mouth. You see a lot of entrepreneurs doing it. I have not done it, but I know a lot of people who have. I've had the blood test where it led me to almost to the cusp. I was like, So I guess maybe, talk about that, like that, plus maybe some of these other things that might be common that are more detrimental than anyone believes or knows.
100%. So let's talk about TRT. It's a great one, right?
Cool.
And many of the males out there, we talk about this, it's an epidemic across the world that male TRT is low. Absolutely it is. Let me ask you a question. What is also an epidemic in our society? Chronic stress.
Mm-hmm.
Chronic stress will drop your TRT levels. As an entrepreneur, you're chronically under stress. And you are working and you're burned out, you're tired, you're fatigued, your brain, you don't know what the code is, because what happens, let me bear with my science mind for a minute. Your brain creates these neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters then communicate and create hormones. Mm-hmm. So the way that your brain creates neurotransmitters determines the hormones in your body.
Makes sense. Uh-huh.
So if you're not inspired by the challenges you have, if you feel frustrated, burned out, tired, and you got to go to work, and work feels like a grind, and you got to grind it up more and more and more, you are burning out your testosterone.
Yes. Okay.
You are burning out your testosterone, breaking down your body. And instead of saying, okay, how do I rewire this so that it's not burning me down? How do I build my own testosterone? Because you can, 100% can. But it's the way that you think and the way that your brain code is set up that's creating these imbalances in neurotransmitters that are causing you to burn out physically with this testosterone. Mm-hmm. And so, is there a time for it? Absolutely. I'm not taking away from that. That's not my point. Is it being overly abused? In my opinion, it is.
Got it. How, I guess, just to close the loop, because I'm sure people are wondering, and I am too, how do you grow or build your own testosterone?
So you set goals that are strategic, that are truly inspirational to you, that really mean the most to you.
Uh-huh.
Right now in the entrepreneurial market, everything is about an exit. Everyone's talking about exit. There's so much money in private equity. Okay, good. What does that mean? Truthfully, what I've found is that people who exit their companies come to me most depressed than ever before.
That's a very common thing. I was just doing another show earlier yesterday. Same exact thing. Never met someone who's made it, rich, wealthy, whatever, and super happy. It's just, or if they're very few and far between.
You know what I found over the years?
Yeah.
In all the cases, all the experience, what I found is an inspired entrepreneur builds a business that they never want to sell. Dan Sullivan talks about this.
That's right. Yep.
Right? And I believe Dan Sullivan is the OG of OGs in business consulting.
I mean, he's in his 80s now, so
He's
he's still rocking.
I just read his books, I've just watched some of his interviews. So I've never been a client of his or any of that capacity, but I think just that mindset, when I heard that, I said, this guy gets it.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah, he does.
Really.
Yeah.
And so you build a business that you never want to sell, but you build it in the way that you can sell. So that's where you create the system behind it. But you build it because you love to serve people. And when you serve people, you'll get up every morning with a value of what you do. You'll have an inspiration to wake up and get up and do something in the world. But if you say, you know what, I did all this for money, I've not found many people that actually truly sit and say, you know what, my number one value is money. Because once they get money, then they'll lead the path of debauchery and they'll find ways to destroy and lose that money.
Mm-hmm. And then the cycle continues, or probably is way worse. Yeah.
Now they say, well, you know what? I've got money, So I'm not stressed that way, but they got no fulfillment, no joy, no inspiration in the game. And
Yeah.
that's why I say you can have success and fulfillment. There is a path to having both for sure.
Got it. Well, so, and this goes back to the 5 pillars of health that you speak about.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong. There's probably not a sequence to it. Maybe you have one, but I feel like, yeah, if there's an imbalance in wealth, that could lead to other imbalances, maybe mind, body, sleep, whatever it might be. But I'm curious if you could just break down how you think about the pillars of health and so we can all kind of grasp it and
For
apply it.
sure, right? Sleep is essentially important, but here's what I found. I come from a mind first approach to healthcare
Okay.
because the brain controls every single cell, tissue, and organ in the body, and how we think controls every cell, tissue, or organ in the body. They have shown proof and data, and I've done this experiment myself. Go to the gym and do bicep curls, and take yourself to the last rep. Maybe doing 10, your 10th rep. Get super angry and think of something super negative that pisses you off. That 10th, 11th rep is going to become super hard. It's going to be hard to finish that rep. Now, think about the thing that you love and inspire that you want to do the most. You'll get 2 or 3 more reps out of yourself in that. Because your brain will move towards what it is you really want if it inspires you.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
really interesting.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is I say get the mind clear first, right? Rewire the brain, get yourself, know who you are, know your values, know your identity, know why you're doing what you do, and link everything in your life, every emotion, everything to that mind. Because once the mind gets calm, then the body gets clear. Now you reduce the cortisol. Now you reduce the blood sugar problem. Now you get rolling hills, as my friend Gary Breckel actually, you get proper rolling hills
Sure.
within spikes in blood sugar, right?
Yeah.
Then you say, okay, now what do I eat? Then you got to look at, okay, now we got to control the diet so we don't spike these blood sugars. And then once those things come into place, sleep falls itself right in.
Makes sense because your body's going to want it. And so your
Body's gonna need
diet
it.
is going to fit with it. Yeah, exactly.
And then watch your wealth explode. Watch your wealth explode at that point. But I will say that if you're listening to this and saying, you know what, doc, that makes sense, but you know what, I'm just trying to figure out how to pay my bills. I'm trying to get through the day. I get it. I completely get it, right? And I've been there, so I empathize with you. But at the same token, what I'm saying is that what you've got to do is learn to kind of mix both of them into the game. Don't neglect the health while you're trying to build wealth.
Yeah.
Until you can fully sit and say, you know what, I can spend the first 3, 4, 5 hours of my day in my own state to go work 4 to 6 hours if you want to, and then come back and spend time with the family. I think if you structure your day that way, I like the way Ed Milet sometimes explains. I think I heard him say this one time. He said he structures his day in threes, in chunks of 3. I kind of like that. I kind of like that idea. I
Yeah.
get up in the morning, 6 o'clock, 6 to 10 is my time.
Yeah.
That's my time. Like, that's my workout. That's my training. That's my rewiring. That's my reading. That's me. That's my learning time. So I spend 4 hours there, and then I go. Okay, 10 o'clock. I'll do my first meeting, and I work till about 4. Right, 10 to 4, 6 hours.
Yeah.
Unless I'm actually doing a seminar or something like that. Right, then that's
That's
a
fair.
different game. So I'll work 6 hours in there, and then 4 o'clock. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I go back to the gym. So I do 2 workouts a day, and I'll
Nice.
go back to the gym in that, and I'll do like a little light cardio, something, get the body blood moving, get my steps in, and then 5 o'clock it's like, all right, son's got a soccer game or some activity, family dinner, and then and I'm going to say something that every entrepreneur is going to sit and say, no, you can't. I like to sit at the end of the day and watch a little TV.
How dare you?
I know.
Jeez.
I like to do it. I watch Modern Family and Life in Pieces, and I love it.
Modern Family's awesome. Yeah. I was going to ask you, okay, what are you watching?
Yeah.
Even better. Okay, Modern Family. Yeah. Love it. So I have a couple things that came to mind as you're walking through this. So obviously the 5 pillars of health is sequential, starting with the mind, at least in the way you say it, and I fully believe that's true as well. A couple things that come to mind, and I want to ask you about some of the specifics to keep those rolling hills going, as Gary Brecka says.
Yeah.
Like breath work for me, I found all the way from Wim Hof, which is pretty aggressive, to things that are more intentional but can still get very similar results. I'll go into push-ups. So like Wim Hof says, do 40, whatever, inhale, exhales, and then, do the whole routine and then start just like crank out as many push-ups as you can. And I'm sure with even a more positive mental picture of whatever you're going for, but I've always found I could do way more, like
Sure.
a good extra 10, maybe more. And I'm sure that relates to, because you're clearing your mind, you're settling the brain, or sorry, the body and the brain through the breath work. So like, would a mechanism like that be helpful, or is that something that you use yourself?
Yeah, I love breath work. I
Cool.
completely love breath work. Right? I'm an Indian guy, so like breath work and yoga is like
True.
that's what we grew up with. So I'm totally in for it. And I think oxygen. And Gary is so dead on the money when he says presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. He's dead on the money. The
Cool.
rewiring work we do is about bringing oxygen to cells that need it, right? And when he saw me rewire someone, he's like, "Doc, how did you do that?" He's like, he's seen me do it. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see his testimony. He's like, "I've never seen anything like that."
Yeah.
And Gary's great, and he's right with that. What we've got to do is push more oxygen. So breath work is helping oxygen get to the system. Absolutely. Now, I will, Wim Hof has so many studies that have done on him, and that are completely wild as story and testimony. And to himself.
Injected what E. coli and all that. Yeah.
All this stuff, absolutely ridiculous, right? So I'm not going to say anything against it because I can't speak to that. But I will go back to my roots and say breathwork in the Eastern world has been around for millennia, right?
Yep.
Centuries. And what has been taught, what I've learned, is that if you're doing the deep aggressive breath and you're doing that heavy breath, sure, it's stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, right? The short inhalation is about your sympathetic nervous system. And the exhalation is about your parasympathetic, which is your relaxed part of the nervous system. So fight or flight, when you take in, and when you exhale, it's about relaxing and basically rest and digest. And what I've taught my patients for almost 25 years now, is take a deep breath in for 7, hold it for 7, and release it for 7.
Okay. Everything's even.
Even it out, because what you do is that you activate the sympathetic nervous system. You now put that oxygen now forces itself into cells, and then you relax for 7, and then you get the carbon dioxide and that out of the system, and the body gets rid of that, and it resets itself. What we want is the optimized state is not more or less. It's balanced.
Yes.
It's systematic. It's unshakable. Unshakable is balanced. And so breath work, I call it unshakable breath work.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I gotta check into that. I love it, and I found as I eased down, because I was all about the Wim Hof for a while, and I'm sure it's partially marketing. It's great, but it introduced me, and I know a lot of others, to breath work and things like you said, in the Eastern way of being and everything. I have a bunch of Indian friends, and I've breath work's been around forever. Yoga, these very intentional, all the way back to the whole inflammation, Ayurveda. It's like
Absolutely.
it's all tied in together. Yeah.
It's all tied in. I'm a geek when it comes to health. My family and everyone knows, like, what do I study? I study health.
Sure.
I pretend like I'm an entrepreneur, like maybe a lot of your audience, but I'm really a doctor. Like, I love healing, and I have a business in healing, right? So that's what I do. But
Perfect.
at the end of the day, I'm a doctor. So I've studied Ayurveda, I've studied functional medicine, I've studied all of these things to look at what I don't know that there's a best system. What I've said is that how do we take all of these systems and make it the best for you? You see what I'm saying?
All the way back to the brain DNA test, which makes
All the way back to the brain DNA test. If someone has, someone who has high amounts of MAOA or low amounts of MAOA is going to be known as a warrior gene.
yes.
Right? So what do they need? That you give them more pump up of oxygen, fire them up with more oxygen. They're going to be more awake. That's going to make their dopamine go higher. Serotonin's going to go higher. And they're going to go and say, I'm unstoppable to everything. But then they're going to crash. That person at night is going to sit and say, I am drained. And they go, all or none. All or none. There's no grounding middle space for that person.
Or is there? Like, is there another approach? Like, what would you... there's got to be. Yeah.
There is. Of course there is, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying, but like the way that they live now, of course.
Yeah, that's the now way. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But then we would rewire their brain to be able to regulate that, number one. Then I'd get breath work into it. I would not have them do crazy heavy lifting all the time. Light, low rep lifting would be a completely different answer for them. Instead of saying, you know what, let me go pump up, Ever the max reps, all I can do. What if I take you doing 25 reps at a lower, you're going to burn out that dopamine. You're going to burn out that serotonin.
Yeah.
It's an excess in your body.
Interesting. Okay. And that probably, like you said, you work out twice a day. I know a lot of people aren't even working out once, but work out, y'all. Do something. But, like you could have a whole different workout, I'm assuming, in the morning. Maybe that's more of a pump up, a raise up. And then one in the evening or later in the day to, I'm assuming, depending on who you are, maybe that's the more calm, mindful way of working out, whatever that looks like.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I like
Depending
it.
on you, right? We are in an era, obviously now with brain test, or excuse me, with personalized medicine being so on the forefront.
Yeah.
We now have to create a personalized psychology. We can't just say we follow, and all humans function the same way. That's just not true.
Yeah, that's not true at all. And I mean, immediately, because I do a lot of stuff in AI, and now we all have access to pretty much all the information whenever. Are you leveraging AI, or at least the idea of like, okay, we have all these results now. How do we make you the absolute best? I'm just, with the studies and everything that you know about in your own practice.
I'm not in practice anymore, so I don't have a brick and mortar.
True. Yeah,
I got rid of my brick and mortar about 10 years ago because I was more of an educator. I want to teach people how to live a healthy life. And if I figured if I was in practice, I'd get lost and I wouldn't get out there. So, but nonetheless, the question was, is there an AI use? We do. So I have an app called the LT Mind app.
Okay.
And I actually programmed it where you talk into the app and it gives you voice recording. It uses your voice to analyze your emotional state. And then from that, I've programmed it to rewire your brain. So you will literally, if you're stuck, you're frustrated, I tell my clients in the morning, just download the app, rewire your brain in the morning, rewire it at night, watch your HRV go up, watch your blood pressure go down, watch your heart rate go down, watch your sleep get better, your REM sleep will go up.
Wow.
Right? When I sleep, when I go to bed, I go to bed at 9:45, I wake up at 5:45. Clockwork every single day. It doesn't, I mean, I get up to use the bathroom because I drink so much water at the same time. But I don't have that issue. Not to say I didn't, but the more I calm the mind, the better sleep I got. That's REM.
And HRV, you mentioned that. Like, I know that goes back to breath work, even in, hold, out. That's a direct HRV correlation right there. Chill out your heart and variability.
And that's all controlled by the brain.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
When I learned about that like with what you're saying, I'm like, duh. Everything goes downstream from that point on.
It's completely downstream. So what I always wanted to get to was the core source of it. That's why the brain DNA is the core source of how all of this works. So you look at your HRV and say, okay, I'm trying to lower my HRV. You do breath work. Okay. And that's great. Is there something up here that we need to add? Maybe this person's got this gene and they need more tryptophan and they need more serotonin in their body to regulate. So you got to look at it and say, okay, let's put more meat, let's put more turkey in this person's diet to get an outcome, versus maybe more fish, maybe more mercury. You want to put more tryptophan, more turkey in their diet. That's going to help build more serotonin for themselves. They're going to sleep better because of that.
Yeah. I'm going to be taking this test for one, the brain rewire, or the brain DNA test, because that is absolutely, like, it's funny because I work with another doctor. I just had him on, Dr. Paul Savage, who's all about, essentially figuring out toxins, taking toxins out of your body. So I have a toxin test sitting on my counter right now to take. Pete and Cup and go do that. Well, this is like, we all need to be doing these markers because it's not, I think, like what he said, it's not a mystery until you get data behind it. And you need to get the data on yourself. And then you can do something about it. That's exactly what you're saying here.
It's exactly what I'm saying. Right? I think the tests that are out there are amazing, like mold toxicity, all that stuff is huge. I can't say that I do it enough, to be very honest with you. It's something that I need to add more to my protocol, but it's something that I definitely need to think more about. And I don't as much as I probably want to start thinking about those things.
Well, there's a lot of new stuff coming. I'm learning all about the toxin stuff, and working directly with the doctor, I get firsthand and we're like, okay, this is frightening. But
it's crazy.
Yeah. So hopefully, if you haven't listened to that episode, y'all, it's already released. So go check out Dr. Savage. But
I'm going to listen to it too.
You should. Yeah, you'll love it, man. But so let's wrap it up here. I mean, I have so many other questions, but give them a next best step, because we're all approaching this from different angles, different beliefs. So where should they start? I'm assuming the brain DNA test. So
I think so. If you asked me 6 months or a year ago, I would have gave you a whole bunch of protocols to do, right?
sure.
But my research has shown me that that's a mistake. My research has shown me that the first thing you should do is get your code. Get your specific code. Then let's talk about, okay, the next piece of that code is your value code, your psychological code. But the first piece is let's get your genetic code to understand how to process these things. Because when you process, then you know how to navigate all these pieces. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. Like, it's so crazy. Like, maybe you're an entrepreneur that is demotivated, burned out, fatigued, and tired. You're blaming testosterone in your body, but the problem is the gene upstream,
That's
and
controlling.
and that's controlling it. But you're taking this testosterone and then taking all the side effects that are coming along, potential side effects, right? I know someone will argue with me, well, it's most studied, this and that, it's great for its brain health. I get all of that. I'm not saying no to that. I'm just from the vantage point, can you create it on your own? Yes. I know this because my dad is 73 years old and he's got an 830 testosterone.
Ooh, holy moly!
Yeah.
Off the
And
chart.
so, and I'm like, dude, you want to pass some of that over here?
Right?
I'm sitting at 790, so I'm not far behind. But I don't take any of that stuff. It's
Wow.
and so you got to ask yourself the question, like, how do you want to do it? You got to get the code first. I think that's the most important. I really do. I really believe that in the heart of hearts. Get
Right.
that, then everything else becomes customized to you.
Where do they go to get it?
You just go to Dr. Rewire Test. Go to Dr. Rewire Test, or if you go to Instagram, it's on the page. You can just kind of buy it from there, whatever.
Sweet.
And it's really simple. It's really easy. You just do a cheek swab, get it in 5 to 7 days. You'll have the answers to what you want, and then you can take the supplements, lifestyle changes that are there for you if you want. And then if you want more implementation, then you can kind of do more implementation. Or if you want to work more directly with me, you can do that too, whatever way works best for you. But you don't have to. But the whole point is know that so you know how to implement these tools in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll link everything in the show notes, description, make it easy for everybody to find. And I'm so fascinated. I love this stuff, man. And the fact that science, I mean, it's just, we're all getting smarter, but the fact that we have people like yourself who are now getting data that probably no one's ever thought about to even get, maybe had the ability to get, and now we can run it through some really smart systems, and we all have our individual protocol, which is not as sexy as like, hey, let's all go cold plunge, right? And like,
It's not good for everyone's marketing. I get that, right? These, but I'm not a data guy. Believe it or not, I'm not a gross mass AI data guy. I'm a doctor that wants to help people live the best life
Cool.
that they can. That's my intention. That's my heart. That's what I do. And I want people to have the right things for themselves to be able to do that. Because I want that for my kids and myself.
Yeah.
I'm my own patient first.
I love it.
I like to say.
Okay, I lied. There's one other question that just comes to my mind. It's like, what do you struggle with any of these techniques? Because I read you have like 92 or more.
It's about 120 to 120 different tools, ways I can rewire the brain now.
So is there something that you personally still struggle with, that you're grappling for whatever reason?
It's a good question. I think I sometimes still, with my own DNA, I think I get caught up in the entrepreneurial game.
So is that more external or internal?
It becomes external. And I get reminded, and I have to go back to that as a practice to remind myself to really govern that. Because the thing is that if you don't govern it, it will take you over.
That's right.
Right? But I sometimes do get caught up in, all right, let's go do this. And then I need to look at it, and I have to work on that continuously to sit and say, hold on. And my daily practices that I have help me get there. But then you know what? I'm like everybody else. I can go to a seminar. I can see this guy do this exit, and I can see this. Like, maybe I can do that. Then I'm like, is it what I really want? Am I willing to trade my life and what I have now for that as an outcome? And I don't know if that's the answer, but I have to bring myself down. That is something I struggle with.
That's cool. Thanks for being open. I know it's a very common one. I struggle with it here, like when I have awesome folks like yourself, like, oh, wow, I got to go deeper doing whatever. Or it could be a shiny, we're all dealing with it.
We are.
In this age, even more so, social media, AI, whatever we're learning.
I'll tell you the habit that I struggle with the most.
Yeah.
is social media in the morning.
There you go.
Right? Social media in the morning is my crutch, and I have to cognizantly like really sit and say, okay, you know, I'm gonna leave my phone outside. I'm gonna read my book. I'm gonna stop and read my book. I'm gonna think, but we get into this habit, and it's just like, and I notice the days that I do social media in the morning, I'm more hyperactive.
You're switching, yeah, without thinking, and that
Completely.
hits. Yeah.
Completely.
A lot of folks can relate. Yeah, I have my own vices, but hey, thank you for sharing. This is really awesome. I love the chat. And again, I'll link everything. Go take your test, y'all. Go learn more. I'm gonna go to Instagram, talk about social media, and look at some of these transformations you've been doing. So
Absolutely love it. Happy to help. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
you got it. Yeah.